I feel very strongly that we are who we choose to be. You're not going to outwork me. It's such a simple, basic concept. The guy who is willing to hustle the most is going to be the guy that just gets that loose ball. It's strictly based on being outworked, it's strictly based on missing crucial opportunities. I say all the time, if you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready.
Well, we back, NeverStop Radio on Dash Radio. I got my bro in here, Spencer Paysinger.
What's up?
How you doing?
I'm good. How's everything?
Man, all
Dash
good.
Radio.
Dash Radio. I got a quick story. Me and my dog, he was a young pup, frolicking in the locker room.
Yeah.
At the University of Oregon. I had no clue this little guy was going to turn into an animal. What year did you come in school?
2006.
2006.
Fall 2006. What year was that for you?
Junior year?
I think we played two full seasons together.
Yeah, it was my junior year, man. And you was on scout team running it. You know what I'm saying? Like had all the potential there, man. So I just want to start off by saying I'm proud of you, man, and all your success and your journey, man. So I know shout out to G Strong. You know, G kind of reconnected us today. I appreciate you being here. I know you got a busy schedule running. So we want to get into just really who Spencer Paysinger is, and kind of talk about his journey, and let's motivate the youngsters coming up following our footsteps.
Yeah.
Obviously we can put this out and have a whole Duck football team listening to this, right? So I think it's
absolutely
more about
listening.
Yeah. So it's like let's talk about really like the never stop of what Spencer Paysinger had to go through. And when I wrote the book, Never Stop, it was based off on 12 principles that helped me, kind of excel and, battle through, some of the things that I had to battle through, kind of whether it be in the league or whether it be, in business and life and those types of things. So, you're a family man, so you got all these components going, and it's like, how do you make it work, right? So talk to us about Spencer, talk to us about growing up and some of your experiences there.
Yeah, so brief background about myself. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles, specifically off of Slauson and Western, for those that are listening from Los Angeles. One of the bigger things about my growing up was I was able to get a permit to play at Beverly Hills High School. So, and again, from somebody being from South Central Los Angeles, spending most of my childhood in Inglewood, going to Frank D. Parent, being the only kid of my friends to go to Beverly Hills High School is just a whole new experience for me. And obviously I parlayed that into a TV show called All American, premieres on CW October 7th. But that was the first biggest decision of my life. And I've even now talking to athletes and whatnot and kind of demystifying the idea of what athletes are. I always believe and will always believe that like young black kids have to make real life decisions at really young ages where they shouldn't have to. So that was my first big decision. Obviously I recruited, started to excel at football in my latter years at Beverly, ended up getting a scholarship to play football at Oregon. A lot of people don't know this, and it's funny, but our linebacker coach, Don Pelham, lied to me to get me to Oregon. So I was primarily a receiver in high school. And all city, all state, all CIF, like I was a receiver. I was committed to Colorado as a receiver. Oregon was the only school that said you might play defense if you come to Oregon. Every other scholarship I had was to play receiver. So I'm thinking that's fine because I played safety at Beverly, and I'm like, it'd be fine, but I was being recruited as an athlete. So our coach, Don Pelham, if you're listening to this, DV, you know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
He goes, you'll be a safety, but you'll just play in the box a little bit more. We have guys like Patrick Chung and at the time it was like TJ Ward. You'll be with the safeties, but you might play in the box a little bit. So when I got up there, they said, for these first couple of weeks, why don't you just practice with the outside linebackers? And it's still the same thing as being a safety and everything, but you'll just practice with them for the first couple weeks. Long story short, I never returned back to the DB room, never even entered the DB room. It was just like, that's just their way of getting me into the school. But he had the foresight. He kind of modeled me after another one of our colleagues, Jerome Boyd, a tall, lanky guy that he knew he could model. Ended up being a 3-year starter at University of Oregon. Last game, lost the national championship to Cam Newton. That next year went undrafted during the lockout year to the New York Giants and won a Super Bowl.
Right, so I'll stop you there. A part of, the book is, being a visionary, right? So you talk about Coach Pelham having that vision for you, right, before you could even see it. Talk about some of the things that you've envisioned for yourself in that first part of your life. Did you ever envision yourself obviously winning a Super Bowl or making a transition to schools and things like that? Talk about how you're working on and being a visionary these days.
Yeah, so specifically at that point of time, I loved playing receiver. Loved it. I just liked the one-on-one battles with the DBs, and it was just that when you get into a linebacker, it's just a bigger game. So that decision of trying to figure out who I was as a person was, can I make it as a linebacker now? Yeah. Because I've only played safety just because in high school you went both ways. That's just what it was.
That's what you do, yeah.
But you get to college, and my uncle and my dad sat me down, and they said, listen, you have to make a decision. Do you want to be a possession receiver, or a potentially dynamic linebacker? So use everything that you knew from offense and pour that into defense to where I got to the point where, I was the guy that was guarding the running backs, guarding the slot receivers in motion and whatnot. And it was, can I do this? Upwards till, my first game starting against Washington, prime time, Jake Locker. Like 20 minutes before we run out, I'm in my locker shaking with a towel over my head, crying my eyes out because I just didn't know if I was able to do this. Like a year and a half ago, I was a 206-pound receiver coming in here. Now I'm a 215-pound linebacker, using air quotes because even still I haven't had any live action being that. But it was one of those just like midstream adjusts. We had some guys on the team get kicked off, and I was third string as a Sam behind Jerome Boyd and another linebacker. And DP called me and said, listen, I know you're third string Sam right now, but we're playing Washington in 3.5 weeks. You're going to be the starting will for that, and I need you to learn the will position in 3.5 weeks. To this day, that's one of the best games I've ever played. Nice. But that whole time, it was me understanding that you can do this. Definitely. Put your head down, get to work. You can do this if you put the work in. And I think that's...
Talk about your preparation, right? Another thing is, right, another of these key principles is, preparing, right? For whether it be battle or preparing for, whatever it is you're working on. So talk about preparation, that what it took for you to say, listen, I technically don't have all this experience doing this. I know I can do it, so now I have to put my head down and grind. So talk about your preparation.
My prep was studying as much as I could. It was like being a fly to Jerome Boyd in the process of, even though we played different positions, he knew how to see the world as a linebacker because he was a safety as well and made that conversion in college, much like I did. So it was being around him as much as I can, almost in a mentor-mentoree relationship, to where I don't even know if he really knows how much of an impact he had on my career at Oregon, but I saw myself in him. And he was starting, he was doing it well. Even when he got picked up by the Raiders and was killing it in there, I'm like, damn, this could be me. So it was having a mentor to help guide me down this road I had no business being down, but also studying on my own accord. Studying that extra hour at night, staying late in film sessions, even to the point where like DP even told me like I have to go home, like I have a life, you can't keep me here as long. Like, and I get that, but for me it wasn't necessarily I was scared to do it. It was that I was scared that if I had to do it and I wasn't prepared for it. There you go. Like, if I knew I was prepared for it, like, even to this day, like, it doesn't matter what the job is. I rarely get scared of that moment because I know that my prep and just everything I poured into it validates this moment.
Most definitely. Yeah. And I think the great point that you also made was the mentorship. You know, I always
Absolutely.
talk in the book. I talk about just surrounding yourself with the right people and kind of creating that culture, you know, within what you're doing, or whether it be in a business meeting or whether it be, you know, in a linebacker room.
Yeah.
You know, kind of having that culture and also the mentorship. So if you kind of can touch on that a little bit more. And shout out to Jay Boyd, you know, right, who didn't know he was a mentor, but you know, and that's what it takes to. You know, you had that gift, right, as a young man, to know that, you know, I'm going to attach myself to somebody I can see myself being like, you know, exceeding what they do. And I think that's the beauty about having mentors, is you always, you know, you want to be like them, but in the back of your mind, if you were like a true grinder, like you want to, you know, succeed what they do.
Exactly.
That they set the bar for you, and you have to exceed that bar. So talk a little bit about just, you know, nowadays, you know, either you being a mentor, because right, you got all the youngsters.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the show being what it is, we're going into our second season. I've had just a strong outpour of love from family, from friends, from people I've never talked to before. Like I had the greatest conversation with Deion Sanders a few months ago, and it was in a time when I just felt like everybody was asking me for things because of the show. And he got up there, he called me and just said, "Listen, I don't want anything from you. I just want to let you know, like, keep going. Like, you're doing something good. My players are listening to you. They're watching your story and they're learning from this. So just keep going."
Nice.
So for me, I've always had mentors. At every stage of my life, from high school even to now, I've looked to somebody that's either doing it, or it may not be in the same industry, but just the ethics are how I like to live my life by. Definitely. So one of the first mentors I had was a guy named James Harris at Oregon as well. Okay. And he came in as a nutritionist and ended up leaving like second in charge to Chip Kelly. That's just a testament to who he is.
Shout out James.
Yeah. He, you know, I was an econ major at Oregon, and he saw that and said, "Wait, something's different from you than these other guys." And like, again, no shade to my teammates, but you know, I didn't want to do the social major or, you know, the poli-sci major or whatnot, and because I was always good with numbers. That's just how my mind works. I like to know where the money is going. So I said, okay, well, you know, I initially was an art major because I loved art, but I realized I'm reading like 600-page books about like art history. Like I want to touch pen to paper and draw. I realized, well, let me put that to the side and go to my other passion, like these numbers. So went into econ. He saw that and was like, okay, I'm gonna put you into this community. You're going to get coffees with this person that runs 2 businesses, this guy that has a catering company, this guy. So for my last 2 or 3 years there, James would give me internships in the off season. Nice. He would give me job shadowing experience, like to the point where I was actually doing the books for one of the bars. I think it was called Wild Duck on I think it's on like the east side of the campus. But every morning I would come in, do the bank bags for that company, make sure the ATMs were straight, make sure the cash register was straight, drop the bank bags off of the bank before even getting to practice. And that's like waking up at like 5:45, 6 o'clock, being there by 6:30, then getting to practice by 8 or whatever it is. But he was one of those first people to say, you're going about this a little bit differently. You know that you can use football as a conduit to something else, and I want to facilitate that.
Definitely. That's it. And that's what it's about, bro. And that's what the NeverStop model is to really sit down and talk about those experiences that people would never know. Like you getting up at, you know, what time was our workouts in Oregon? You know, early. Coach Ryan had us out there early. So it's like you doing these things prior to practice, and nobody on the squad knew it. Right? Yeah. Nobody on the squad. And I took an internship one time at a marketing company, and nobody knew about it. And, you know, I was always just ball, but I always knew that there was something else out there for me. And, you know, I wasn't afraid to take a step out of my box, right? And, you know, prepare myself for something else or whatnot. You know, so NeverStop Radio, we're going to play some music right now with DJ Damu. So NeverStop Radio, we back. Got my boy Spencer Paysinger here, Super Bowl champion, Mr. All-World himself, All-American. All right, now let's talk. Win a Super Bowl, what comes after that?
There was a lot of partying that came. I mean, because mind you, you know, I've never considered myself or my family poor. But when I won a Super Bowl, that was at the point where I was making as much money I've ever made in one lifetime. And it was the first time I felt like, okay, I don't feel like I'm playing catch up to anybody else. So I indulged a little bit in that. But now it became, okay, how can I leverage this? How can I leverage this NFL seal, playing for the New York Giants, who's by far like one of the top 3 like families of the NFL. How can I leverage this in one of the biggest, greatest cities in the world to things outside?
Yeah.
So for me, that came at a point where, yes, I graduated my econ degree, but I didn't really know what to do with that. I didn't know. It just, the best thing with an econ degree, if you're not doing econ, is just say you have an econ degree, but like you don't really know what to really do with it. But what was dope is having that econ degree got me into some doors I don't think I was able to get into. That and the NFL SEAL. So what I would do is I love cold emailing people. Like I'm totally fine with doing that. I've emailed billionaires and you know, multi-million-dollar producers, just say Spencer Paysinger, NFL Giants, and do a brief something of, hey, I would love to meet, sit down with you, whatever. And I've come to find that whenever you can utilize that shield, whatever shield you have, if you're working for a company, if you have something that somebody just wants to be next to, you can utilize that. So, you know, those next 3 years I was in New York, it was dinners, it was internships, it was grabbing coffees, grabbing drinks, just building out that network to the point where if I wanted to walk away from football, I know I can make a couple calls and can probably stay in New York and still have the life I wanted to have.
Definitely.
But yeah, it was a lot of internships. Specifically, the biggest one I had was with Quest Diagnostics. So that was actually through the New York Giants, where I was always interested in things I had no idea like entailed. Like I just, the idea of Quest Diagnostics is they're this, you know, blood testing company. They, you know, they have contracts with all Kaiser, Cedar, all that, whatnot. But they were actually building out a sports platform that was able to take an athlete's blood, mix it up, do whatever to it, and give you an assessment of what you're deficient in down to like the smallest minute details. So I was interested in like, wow, how do y'all do that? So through this internship, through the Giants with Quest Diagnostics, I had like, I'm talking like my own desk in Madison, New Jersey with Quest Diagnostics, like slacks, dress shirt for like 2 or 3 months after the season. It was maybe like 2 weeks after my second year ended. I'm like full on work mode, like I have my badge, everything, to the point where that was the first time I had done all the internships and whatnot, but that was the first time I truly realized that, wow, life outside of football, this other world that sometimes coaches make us scared to dive into, isn't that bad. Like one of the first moments was I got home from work one day, probably 5 or 6 o'clock. Some basketball game was coming on. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna have a beer tonight. Like you can't do that during the week. And if you do that during the week while you're playing, you're kind of a delinquent because like you need every ounce of health to get you through that Sunday game. So man, I remember having like 2 or 3 beers, like made myself dinner. Went to sleep at like 11:30, woke up at 9, got to work by 10:30, and was just at my desk like, I feel totally fine right now. I didn't hit anybody, I didn't bang any heads, like, and I'm at work being productive. So that was the first time I realized like, wow, coaches really do, whether they know it or not, they really do like labor those sentiments towards the athletes that this is the best it's going to be.
Well, that's the thing that they use to keep us, to keep us as, robots, right? To keep the sheep in the path, right? To say that, oh, you don't do this, you don't do what I say, we're gonna send your ass home, right? And you're gonna go home, and now what? They scare you into being a human, right? To living a real life, and they try to keep you in that facade world, and like you said, the shield opens up plenty of doors for guys, but it's up to guys to really utilize that and really take the advantage of, having something so, powerful behind them to catapult them. Like the foundation is everything. Whether you play, 1 year or 10, right? You can still utilize that, and people can validate you by that. And I think guys make a mistake of, not necessarily, understanding the power behind that and the resources. And like you from what you're telling me, and obviously you utilize those resources, of being a New York Giant or being just a professional athlete, because it takes the intangibles to be that, to be at that level, exceeds most of the time. And right now, like I love to hire athletes, right? Because we're trained differently. We're wired completely differently. And obviously you don't have to be an athlete to, obviously be a high performing person. But at the end of the day, like to be wired like that.
I mean, what I found too is my strength is in my follow-up. So a lot of people, a lot of athletes, they can get into those meetings and they can put the smile on and be the most interesting person in that room. But when that person, that businessman or woman says, here's my card, email me in a week, call me in a week and let's set something up, I've found that the numbers are very small when you ask athletes to follow up, to the point now where I've actually implemented that in my regimen when people are coming to me for opportunities or whatnot. Even if I have nothing planned, I'll say, hey man, I'm busy right now. Can you hit me up in a week and a half? Hit me up in 2 weeks. Hit me up at the top of the month. And more often than not, I would say 70-80% of those people never hit me back. 100%. And I'm like, I'm literally just testing you to see if you have the decorum to do it.
That's it. That's it, bro.
I was always like, in my calendar, email such and such, 10 a.m., be appreciative, say thank you. And then set up a time where you can reconnect, whether it be phone call or in person. But that's something, if you're an athlete out there listening and you're finding yourself in these situations, always follow up.
That's it. Follow up. Be clear, follow up. And a lot of times people make the mistake of, they get a business card and they'll dump it, right? They'll you'll find it in your crack of your car, your seat or something like that.
I keep all mine.
Yeah, you have to. I think you have to, and you have to revert back to a lot of the people that you meet, even just to refresh them of who you are, because 90% of my business had come from me meeting people while I was in the NFL and leaving the NFL, and then 3, 4, 5 years later, I find their business card, or I go back to my Rolodex and be like, oh, let me email him, and they remember you, right? And that's what it takes, honestly, to really facilitate a lot of the deals and opportunities, because if they can't help you, they may have somebody who can.
Absolutely.
Right, and that's where guys just totally just drop the ball in terms of just not being persistent, not being, focused on the intricate details of what it takes to be successful. And that's a part of being successful, and that's what I like to see, bro. And that's some great advice right there.
I appreciate it. I was actually just cleaning out my office recently, and I had those like books of business cards, and just kind of like flipping through, just kind of getting that just that walk down memory lane. Oh, I met this guy here. I remember this. Oh yeah, I'm still talking to this guy, and I came across Michael Cohen's business card, Trump's top advisor. And I remember seeing, I'm like, oh shit, like I remember meeting this guy and having a full on dinner and being like, he's like, come on in, and like dude's serving how much time he is now. But I'm like, that it was just a funny walk down memory lane, and it all came from that business card that I never threw away.
That's it.
Yeah.
Just don't email him now.
No, I'm not trying to get it implicated.
But no, just talk about all American, what's going on now, what Spencer got going, what's motivating him, and how can people get in touch with you in terms of just business ideas or just whatever. You'll talk to us.
Absolutely. I mean, in terms of how you can get in touch with me, I'm easy. My name is the same across all social media platforms, so it's PYSNGR. It's Paysinger without the vowels. That's Instagram, Twitter, what have you. So if you want to reach out to me, again, I'm easy. If you send me something and I like it, we'll sit down and talk. If I don't like it, we probably won't talk. But send it. Yeah, just you never it. Shoot your shot. And when it comes to All American, again, we're filming. Right after this, I'm actually going to set because I'm filming 3 scenes today. So I'm like an Easter egg in the show. So I'm like Beverly Hills defensive coordinator in the show. Yeah. We have a production meeting before that, but we're shooting episode 6 right now, 206 right now, second season. It premieres October 7th on the CW. It's Monday night, I believe, 9 o'clock with Black Lightning.
Okay.
But yeah, the first season of All American was essentially Spencer adjusting to, trying to appease both these worlds, being from South Central, but going to Beverly Hills High School and not realizing that, realizing that Beverly Hills didn't save him from danger or those influence. It just exposed him into a whole new world of problems, like the rich kid problems, what have you. Now, the second season, he's had success there now, so now he's trying to understand, okay, now that I'm here, what does this world look like for me? How can I keep, getting the resources from Beverly Hills and pouring those back into my community? So he's definitely going for a ride. I can't, deliver too much, but his father's back. His father's been gone for the past 6 or 7 years, 8 years actually. So now he's back being the coach of South Central High School. South Crenshaw High School. And he's being compelled to maybe come back to play for his father. We don't know if he does it or not, but it's just that story of, man, he's trying to be himself in 2 different worlds and just trying to make it work.
Definitely. So listen, I'm putting my bid out there now. I'm trying to make my acting debut in All American. So if y'all need an extra, let me know. I don't need no compensation, nothing.
Coach or something.
I'm just be out there, man. I'll be in the stands cheering, whatever.
Man, I got my first line this season.
Yeah.
All last season I was like a mime. I'm just in the back of Tay Diggs, like nodding my head, and so I got my first line. So
nice.
It's hard for me to get a line in there.
Yeah, I get it. I like it, bro. But no, I'm extremely proud of you, man.
Appreciate it.
I'm cheering you on. I'm right here. You know, we can ever get together and do something. I would love to partner
Absolutely.
with you on something, man. There's so many opportunities out there, and just the timing is everything. Let's figure that out. But no, I'm proud of you, man. Never Stop Radio, Spencer Paysinger, man. Again, proud of you, man. Keep going.
Thank you. And real quick, I will say, in going back to that mentorship ideology is, I've always looked to guys like you, guys like G Strong, guys like, D-Dix, like you guys were that collective, and seeing you guys as juniors and seniors when I was a freshman, sophomore, I was like, man, y'all doing it right. Y'all doing it together. Yeah. Y'all your own little cohort. Yeah. And even after you guys graduated, you guys all did these really cool, interesting things. So I always kept mind to that, to where, when G hit me yesterday about this, I'm like, oh, I got to stop by. I'll make this date work if possible. So, there's some people I haven't talked to since college, but guys like you, guys like G, like I'm always aware of what you guys are doing. Most because definitely. As a young kid coming into Oregon, not understanding the landscape and seeing how you guys moved, I always appreciated that. And you guys, whether you knew it or not, like influenced me to be the person I am today.
Right on, bro. I
Absolutely.
appreciate that, man.
Absolutely.
Go Ducks. I appreciate my dog.
All day.
NeverStop Radio.